Again, welcome everyone. Really great that you are here. This is the Spiritual Healing 1 class that you signed up for. And the beauty of this class is that I offer literally like an expansion of awareness in this class. And how that is going to take shape, you will discover. It's really like that. So I promise to use three books, so of three paths in itself. One of them is A Course in Miracles. One of them is the book The Art of Spiritual Healing by Goldsmith. And the other one is The Way of Mastery, and then specifically The Way of Transformation by, say it's a download, just like The Course in Miracles by Jeshua Ben Joseph, that is Jesus, Jeshua. And I'll come back to, in the class that we use this specific book, I will come back to an introduction about the book. So today I use The Art of Spiritual Healing from Joel. And why do I use three different books? Why do I use three that seem to be different paths? Well, here you are, like today you are present here in your introduction to spiritual healing. And you might have had many courses already in it. That would be great. That really does not matter. But the one thing that is the starting point of, say, doing this is really that it is a universal experience that we're talking about. It is coming from universality. It's literally coming from oneness altogether. And from my own experience, it is like I cannot distinguish what comes from where. It is just that I got to say the principles are revealed to me by practicing it, by doing it, by receiving it. And in that sense, I use all three of the books, or all three of the specific books as a matter of frequency, as a matter of a way of say exercising or say deepening our ideas, or opening our mind even more. Like for instance, especially with the art of spiritual healing, it can be read in a way that you would miss what it actually says. And this is of course always when you start to read it, you read first the words and suddenly something starts to speak to you. Well, this is with Joel, with the way that he writes and the way that he gives things to us. In my experience of it, it is really good to stand still with some of the aspects. And it's not that I'm going to read a lot. No, it's more like some aspects I take out because I discovered it is so useful for an expansion of awareness that I want to give that to you. And when I give that to you, it's like it is not Wim speaking to you. So that's another thing. Like one of the beautiful things that has given me again, even in this weekend too, was seeing that there's only one teacher, and that can be you, that can be me, speaking through you, speaking through me, speaking through Joel, speaking through Jesus. It really does not matter, but there's only one teacher. So in this sense, you seem to be listening to me, and I seem to be teaching you. Don't let yourself be disturbed. Don't let yourself be fooled by appearances. So know that what is speaking to you is coming from you and literally talking to you at the same time. And I think that's a real basic and fundamental idea that you will accept being on this spiritual healing path. You know, it's like it is not by your doing. You know that already. It's not by your doing. It's not by your might or by your power that this happens. It's not by using special mind energy or something that you say change something like a magical act or a magical a magical word that we use. No, none of that. That's just even why I start laughing. It's like, that's a ridiculous idea. So we're not using that at all here in this class. So the one teacher is the one that we listen to. The one teacher is the one that is speaking to us, not in the words that I mouth. No, and it is speaking to you in that what you receive, in exactly the way that you can receive it. And that in itself is the miracle, literally, of communication. So in this class, I would really love from you that you open up as much as you can to what is being shared, and say, go beyond that to the edges of your awareness to come to discover something new, a new way of communicating, and also express that in your way, however you need to, however you can receive that. You know, it's like, however you can receive that. If you have to move your body for that, or who knows, whatever you have to do, you're welcome to do that. Whatever makes it easier for you to receive what's been given, or dive deep into a certain idea that I'm not even talking about, but what was given you in the moment that you receive it. Stay with that, totally trust that, and believe that that is okay. So in fact, we will be still for a moment in this when I finish my introduction. It's like we will be still and also say, become aware of the process that is taking place in us. And with the process, I mean the subtle changes that are occurring while becoming still. So it can be like suddenly you feel some kind of opening, some kind of change somewhere in your system. So be aware of that. Stay with that for a moment. Allow it to feel it. And it's like, no matter what's being said, just really stay with yourself in that sense. Stay with your own experience, because that is where this is about. It is about your experience of all of this. That is the place where you are present. So let's try this just as a little exercise now. Let's become still and breathe and relax. So breathing deep into your belly. Just to include, say, the deeper layers of yourself in it. Not that you are a body, but it seems to work really well when you put your focus there, when you breathe. And then just slowly allow yourself to sink deeper into yourself. And I will be quiet for a moment too, at a certain point. So, however you can allow yourself to sink deeper. Maybe you need to breathe. Maybe you need to sigh. Maybe you need to cry. Maybe it is so still already that you don't know even what to do. That's perfectly all right too. So you just sink deeper into yourself and become still. At the same time, notice that your breathing is different than you expected maybe. So breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And then I'll tell you this, is that at a certain point you discover that you're actually breathing light instead of air. That you never that you never breathed air, but always light. So in this moment there's an opportunity then to feel that. Like, oh yeah, that can be light, why not? Yeah, why not? Why is it the way that I thought it would be? Like, no, there's communication going on in my awareness. Okay, breathing first, relaxing my shoulders, breathing deeply into my belly. Sighing deeply. If you feel that coming up, breathing in through your nose. See, when your body wants to move, just let it move. Just like I have that always too. It's like, yeah, it's moving by itself. That's perfectly all right. Or your hands are moving. Or you need to stand up to let this happen. Perfectly all right. So now we say like 3 times slowly, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this thank you helps you to open your mind even further. And your heart. Thank you. Thank you, God. Like, we're not going to define God, but we want to come into the direct experience of presence of God, of communion with God, with your Creator. So can you feel the subtle changes that are happening in you? All right. So that was just a little introduction into becoming still and opening up for communication. So you are able to share your experiences in a moment when the introduction is over. I would love to hear from you. And so coming back to the art of spiritual healing, which is what we're looking at, it's like spiritual healing. Yes. So where's this based on, or how does this work? And then, so it is essential to see your place in this. That's why I started sharing about the one teacher too. It's like, that's essential to take a really good look at that. It's like, there's one teacher. That is the one speaking to us. That's not some kind of personality, but it's actually something inside of me that is teaching me, and I take that with me wherever I go. In my spiritual healing, he will also tell me exactly what to do if anything needs to be done. The only requirement for me is then to come in touch with my stillness. So we train our minds to open our minds, to open up for this communication. That's one thing. So that's in the process of coming to this. And you've been doing that, for sure. Otherwise you would not be here. So you have, say, this training that you did, that you are doing, in which you offer yourself the release of the bondage of your mind, of the thinking that you're used to as a human being, or the bondage of space and time becomes loosened. So coming back to the words of Joel, he talks in the beginning a lot about God, like God is the universal principle. Say God is my being. I and my Father are one. I'm one with my Father. There's no God and me. No, there's God. God is. Like that is the reality of who I am. That's why, talking about healing, that's why things like sickness, contagion, and all that does not exist, because wholeness, oneness, perfection does not know these things, has no idea what that is about. So that means your real being, your real you, does not know anything about sickness or lack or disease, disaster, you name it. It doesn't know anything. It doesn't recognize it as its own. So that's why we say it's an illusion. It's like, that's why it can change in your experience. You can have an idea that suddenly you have a certain sickness or a certain idea about yourself, but in the recognition of the totality of who you are, and realizing that for a moment for yourself, you can see that things can shift and change. And the practice of that, we come to that in this class. We will definitely say consciously talk about this. And when I say that consciously talk about this, is coming together like we do with the one teacher, with the purpose of healing, with the purpose of, say, coming to this. In fact, you already are receiving healing for yourself, because that's the purpose of this. Coming to the wholeness of who you are, coming into an experience of the totality of who you are, coming closer to that experience. So releasing fear of coming closer to that. So any release in that process is really welcome. So that's why we have classes. That's why we come together. That's why we take some time to go through this. So to have this happening to you as a natural process of miraculous healing, knowing what to do, knowing honesty is an important part. Being honest about yourself is an important part. Learning how to forgive is an important part. Letting go of your ideas about yourself, of ideas of guilt and of sin, is an important part in order for you to experience the totality of your reality. So all this we do step by step. And there's a perfect plan for that is given you on a daily basis. So this is part of that too. So the art of spiritual healing, like I said, Joel talks a lot about God is. God is. I can read some. I will do that. Because then it becomes also concrete in a certain sense. God is the animating principle of every individual. God is the mind of every person here, the intelligence expressing as person. God is the only love. God being infinite. God is all love. Therefore God is the love of individual being, and being filled with the love which is God. No individual can be used as an instrument for hate, envy, jealousy, and malice. God is love. God is love. God is infinite being. So this is what I put on the website too, just as say, as an foundation. It's like the realm of pure being is being presented. It's like that is the place that allows spiritual healing. And that's the place you realize inside yourself where healing takes place. And then it's like it's all coming together in such an incredible way. That's why I love to use also A Course in Miracles, but also Joel, and also the Way of Mastery. Is like the way that it comes together is so beautiful. Like training your mind in order to have more light and love in your awareness, or learning how to release fear, or learning how to forgive, is then a real, say, help in this process too. So there's the same then with having this great healer, teacher, talking to us with the principles of spiritual healing. See, that's really helpful too. So one of the things that Joel shares too is this, is like, in fact, he says, talking about time, like, in fact, he says, God's work is done. It's complete and whole and perfect. It is done. It is done. And in fact, he says, so is your work when you realize that. So up to that point, you have still something to do. And that's why we're in this class. We have something to do, otherwise we wouldn't be here. It's like realizing that everything is given us and it's complete and whole and perfect. It seems to be a bit of work for us. And basically it is like the other way around, that we have to step back more and more and more to have that be revealed to us. So that's always so interesting with this path. It's like everything is totally upside down. So here we are wanting to know all this, and we're the resistance itself to it. So that's interesting, isn't it? So step by step, we learn to step back out of it and allow it, so to speak, to be whole and perfect. Allow it to come into our awareness, and allow our own, say, meaningless ideas to disappear. Let them just literally disappear. So here we are. So there's a bit of work for us to do. And basically, one of the things that Joel says too, and I love that as an idea, is like, you are the instrument. You learn how to be the instrument. And this is the same as what I shared in the beginning. It's like there's only one teacher. He's the one teaching. And that is the same then with you as being the instrument. It's like you would have no idea what to share at what time. You would have no idea how to play this instrument. So that is also not what is asked of you. So let yourself be played by, say, the breath of life. Let that instrument be activated. Let that come to you. Let that speak through you, and learn how to do that. This is what we do in this class. It's like learning how to be open, how to do that, it's not really a doing at all, but an allowance, like you allow that to occur. And we will practice that very practically. Maybe first with just expressing ourselves, and even though we feel fear of expressing ourselves, or thinking that you can say the wrong things, or who knows what your concern might be, overcoming that fear. Because it's like what is being offered is beyond fear, is literally the place where you actually go beyond the limitation of fear and see that there's a whole world behind that you never even got to, because you always were, say, limited by your own ideas about it, or your own feelings of fear. All right, so Joel, in this piece, in this Art of Spiritual Healing, and we used this book a couple of times in this series of classes. So he shares a couple of secrets. So one of them I want to share with you now. It is not really a secret, but it can be a secret to you if you never heard of it. Oh, here he says, see, we already know the secret. The Father is in me, and I am in him, and we are in each other. That secret we know. Now, without any words and without any thoughts, twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, and by next year 20 times a day, we go within, if only for half a minute or so, to acknowledge the presence, to feel the divine energy, the divine spark. And so we live that all men coming within range of our consciousness feel the outpouring of God upon them. See, and that's also what we love to remember. It's like you train yourself in doing this. So it's like you want to spend time in remembering. You want to spend time in feeling the stirring of his strength in you. You know, it's like I closed my eyes already. It's like, oh yeah, this is a possibility for that. Is it the right time to do it? Yes, it is always the right time to do that. Just do it when you feel that you want to. You know, it's like 2 times a day, 3 times a day, maybe even 20 times a day. I feel that I want to remind that to myself. I want to come to that. And it might even be so that you are reminded yourself for that. It's like, that's a beautiful, say, rhythm that you can have with your inner guidance. It literally reminds you when you want to remember, when you can remember, when you feel light, when you sit a moment and allow that to change in you, or allow your, say, your mind to shift into a love's presence awareness. So that's a real possibility, and it's part of the training, a part of of what we are doing. All right, so I want to keep it with this, and I love it that you joined us in this class. And so online we continue now in sharing our own experiences or introducing ourselves to one another, and see what happens. Who knows what happens?